Indiaspora is a nonprofit organization founded 11 years ago. Our founder and chairman of the board is a gentleman in San Francisco named M.R. Rangaswamy. Many of you know him. I'll be bringing him up just for a minute or so shortly. And our mission is to inspire and position the global Indian diaspora as a force for good. What we work on are a few specific areas. We are very active in philanthropy and social impact, philanthropy towards India, as well as philanthropy and social impact in the United States and other countries where the Indian diaspora are present. We also help facilitate entrepreneurship and innovation. We are active in what we call Diaspora Next, which is our program to engage with the next generation of the Indian diaspora, learn about what they're doing, what's on their minds, tell them what we do, and so forth, and look for a confluence of interests. And then lastly, our Global Connect program is where we take our work to the world. So in addition to the United States, we have an office in India, and we are very active in several other countries, such as Canada, the UK, UAE, Singapore, Australia, and many other countries where we are starting to build a lot of great relationships with the top Indian diaspora across a variety of different professions in each of those places. So in a nutshell, at sort of a 50,000 foot level, that's Indiaspora. But I just want to talk quickly about today's program. The reason I'm really excited about today's program is, we've been talking about RRR and Natu Natu and all these, the Oscar possibility and all of that. Of course, there is a tradition of either Indians or Indian diaspora winning Oscars and Grammys. There was Bhanu Athaiya way back in 1982 for Gandhi for costume design. Then we have A.R. Rahman, of course. And today, you're going to meet not one, but two Grammy Award winners. And you're going to meet some people who are possibly going to get Grammy Awards in the future. And I'll get to all of that in a second. But let me, first of all, bring up one of the Grammy Award winners. There's a lot of people who know about M.R. Rangaswamy as a community builder, as an entrepreneur and investor, as the founder of Indiaspora. But did you know that he has to his name a Grammy Award? MR?
Hey, Sanjeev, I'm sorry I can't be on screen. I'm still getting my way back, but you're embarrassing me. I just happen to be the associate producer on last year's Grammy that was won by Ricky Cage and Stuart Copeland. And so I do have a Grammy trophy, but I'm sorry I can't display it now, nor can you guys see me. But it's completely unworthy and undeserved, but I guess that's what friends do to embarrass you. So shout out to Ricky and Stuart, who are again due up for another Grammy this year as well with their immersive version of Divine Tide. So wishing them all the best. And here as well, Falu, I know you won it last year. And also I know Annette and the Berklee ensemble, Indian ensemble, is due to win this year. So we're all rooting for you. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you, MR. Yes, we are very privileged and fortunate in Indiaspora to be in the company of several Grammy Award winners, Falu, Ricky, and people who are in the running and in contention for Grammys and so forth. But let me quickly turn it over without further ado to our friend here at Indiaspora, Kash Rangan. Now, what people may know about Kash is that he is a managing director at Goldman Sachs. And before that, he used to work at Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, covering the tech and the software sector. What people may not know about Kash is that he is a great singer. And who knows, maybe one of these days, there will be another Grammy coming the way of the Indian diaspora via Kash. Kash, anything you got to say about your Grammy potential?
Having set expectations so high, I'm bound to crash to the lowest of the lowest common denominator. Sanjeev, thank you so much. This is such an honor, seriously. And to the people that like Falu that have won a Grammy, congratulations. And people that are likely to win a Grammy, congratulations. And people that, if you don't win a Grammy, you're still a rock star in my mind, because I've looked at the quality of the work that you put out. It is absolutely mind-blowing. It's my honor to call myself a moderator. When MR's office approached me with this opportunity, I jumped at it. I said, this is my second passion after work. So let me start off with you, Falu. It looks like you're from Mumbai. And from the little that I know about your background, and this is going to be an exercise in fitting in pieces of the mosaic to understand your musical personalities, all of you. You practice 16 hours a day. And you did not do your first concert till you were 18-year-old or 17-year-old, because you said that the standards that you had to put up were really high before you could actually perform. So tell us about your musical, what was your first recollection of singing, and what did people say about that?
Music was a part of just growing up. Like we eat lunch and dinner, I had to practice. And without practicing, my mom would not give me food. Right now, it could be called child abuse. But, in India, it was fine at that time. So my mother made me practice since I was 3 years old. And my gurus, Sultan Khan, Komali Munshi, Kishore Muntar, I know them as in there. They were not about just performance. Performance comes very late. It's about learning and training first. And that was a philosophy and principle that I was raised with, that you have to first hone your art, give it 10,000 hours, really get into the depth and nitty-gritty of what it is to be a musician, what it is to hear a note, sing a note, even approach a note. So it was a very in-depth training, and 16 hours was like my everyday for 10 years. And I don't even know when my teenage came and went. But it was such a great experience that even now, if I have to focus on something, I can go for 16 hours without eating or even drinking, because that's my training. And I'm so fortunate to my teachers that they made me do it. It's not easy for a child. But if you have the right gurus and the right family and the right, background to support a child, work and blossom, then they can do this focus. And I always used to love Arjun. That's how Arjun clubbed the arrow in the bird's eye. That's the story I even tell my son now. Be like Arjun. Don't think about anything else. Just karm karo. Don't worry about it. So, and then after 17, 18, I got an opportunity to do one line in chorus. Even that I was nervous. Like in chorus singing, if I had to sing with people, I didn't even see a microphone until I was 17. I was so, doing real. So slowly, when you start performing, and then once you are confident on stage, then it's fine.
What was your first performance like? What is your recollection getting up on stage? Was it a bout of anxiety, nervousness, or excitement? On the other hand,
I think excitement, because by then, singing became a second nature. Like if I had to sing on a stage versus at home, it didn't really matter, because I'm just singing. That's what I do. So I wasn't nervous. I wasn't anxious at all. We just said, "This is the microphone. Look at it. Put your mouth towards the real zone that captures it, and just sing. Just do it." And I'm like, okay. I just started singing. I was very excited. I wasn't happy.
So tell us about the journey from a classical music student to composing your own albums in the US. How did that happen? I mean, you're a stage performer, and then you turn into a songwriter, and you compose, and you win the Grammy. What was that like?
I think in America, when you come as a young person, you have to learn the American ways of survival. And it's not exactly like India. In India, I could have done Indian music and, paid my bills for my entire life. Here, I had to hone a different craft. which was collaborations. And in doing so, I organically learned about harmonies. And my first band, Krishna, who really supported me with my husband, Gaurav, who also sings, he's the reason I came to America. Uh, he showed me a lot of, venues and a lot of ways to perform in America. I used to sit down and sing, and Gaurav and my band said, no, 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 you have to stand here and sing. So from sitting down, playing tanpura, to standing up, it's very vulnerable. Ekdam achanak, you're just standing up and singing, and you're like, you don't have body language, you don't have the connection with the audience. So my husband and my band really honed me and made me ready for American performance. Started there, then we started writing songs. And that also started in Karishma, my husband's band, Gaurav, and Shamu and Sangeet. And then from Karishma, I had to come to New York because I was doing a lot of stuff at Carnegie Hall, and my husband was in Boston. So I used to travel, and then slowly you collaborate, and then you learn that just singing ragas might be difficult. So you have to adapt to the genres that are, popular here, that people want you to sing in. So then I started Western music, classical. I started writing my own song again. It was a very new thing, but I did take some classes. I went to Berklee to learn songwriting and composition, and I had a voice teacher there, so I could sing in American English, not just, you just can't sing Indian English. It doesn't work. You have to learn the accents. And then I studied voice composition and songwriting in Berklee. And then, I slowly felt free to draw from both. And then, Karishma helped me find my style, which was Indie Hindi.
Excellent. Now we're going to switch to, we'll come back to you. I'm not done. I could spend an hour talk to you. But how shall we address you? J.Maya? Jaya? Oh.
Jaya, I love that.
That's a combination of Jay and Maya.
Exactly, I love it.
How are you called?
Put that away, for future use. But Jay is perfect for right now.
Perfect. Yeah. Jay, very nice to have you in this forum. Welcome to the Indiaspora event. And we'll get to you, Rohith, in a second. But both you guys are absolutely fascinating. You are born and raised here in the US. So tell me, Jay, about, I listened to your Sunday crossword. I saw a combination of intelligence and great songwriting, how you put it all together. I don't know how so many things have to come together. It's not like coming up with a tune and trying to find lyrics. Everything just works so beautifully in this. It's genius. How did you come up with this Sunday crossword? How long did it take for you to compose this song? And what was the inspiration? Is there a real story behind this love thing that's going on in this crossword?
Of course. First of all, thank you so much for such a thoughtful question. I love that song, and I love talking about it. And I just want to say what an honor it is to be speaking today. I'm such a fan of the other panelists, and also of the musicians at Indiaspora. I'm going to definitely listen to their music after this. And it's so great to also be talking during Grammy season. I'm excited to see what happens on February 5th. And I'm not a Grammy nominee, but I was named this year to the Grammys Rising Star list of 12 artists to keep an eye on, which was a huge surprise and quite an honor, and especially given the talent that has existed in the South Asian diaspora with the Grammys. So I'm very excited. And to your question, Sunday Crossword, the funny thing about this song is 99% of the songs I write, I labor over every lyric. I spend days and weeks getting the chord progression just right. And this was a song I wrote in 20 minutes, and it happens to be my most popular song. And I think it really speaks to when there's a song with a story, the story will come through. This song is one that really comes from my personal life, both the situation and also my love for crosswords. And, I really appreciate you referencing the kind of intelligence of the lyrics. I'm trying to create a genre in pop music called nerd pop, however silly it sounds. I'm someone, I grew up reading, I grew up doing puzzles, I grew up obsessed with language. And as an artist, it's a huge honor to be able to bring some of those interests into the music that I'm creating. So I'm so glad it read that way. The short story for Sunday Crossword is that once I had a crush on a boy and
I can tell from that song. It's very clear.
thank you so much. And this person and I loved doing crossword puzzles together. And at some point it dawned on me that it was all a grand metaphor, because in a crossword there are clues and you're trying to fill in the gaps. And it reminded me of the experience of having a crush on someone and trying to read the clues they're giving you and fill in the gaps and the silences. And so I thought, you know, I love concepts. Every song I've ever written comes from a concept. What if there was a song that sounds like a robot is singing it? What if there's a song that's inspired by Greek mythology? And for this one, the concept really drove the entire composition process, and it really flowed out of me, and I'm so grateful it did. But I think we're entering an era of pop music where people are really excited about these concept-driven songs, and they want the they want the songs to tell these stories in a way that's interesting and innovative. And I'm just grateful to be able to write music during an era where I think pop music is having a little bit of a revolution.
Got it. Now, very stereotypical question. Since I'm an Indian parent, I've got 2 young kids. I was born and raised in India. Did your parents ever say, you're going to Harvard and you're studying and to become what?
Oh my gosh, that's a very fair question. Very, very, very fair. You know, it's so interesting. When I went to Harvard, I actually went to Harvard to be a lawyer. So I did debate in college, and I actually got accepted to Harvard Law School when I was still a junior in college. And it was very much the plan for me to go straight to law school after I graduated. But I will say I have some incredibly supportive parents, and I communicated to them. I said, you know, this is something I'm interested in, but I really think my real passion is music. I've always wanted to write stories since I was a kid, and I've always wanted to write songs, and it was something I did almost secretly for myself for so many years. And you know, when I shared that with them, it was a bit I know it was probably a little difficult to hear and accept and internalize, especially I think because in our community there is there's a lot of pressure to pursue a certain path, to, you know, per se. And I think it was such a blessing for me to be able to show my parents that you can have a career in American pop music. And, you know, it's a little difficult and you have to work hard and you have to think creatively and be an entrepreneur, but it is possible. And I think that was something that we as a family didn't grasp when I was younger. It would never really presented itself as a viable option to me when I was thinking about what I would be when I grew up. But I think coming into it on my own and experiencing some success early on that let me show them, you know, it's possible. I promise I'm going to be fine. I think that was I was very grateful for that. And to this day, they're just so incredibly supportive. And I get so many messages from other young South Asians who are excited that I'm pursuing a career full-time in music, and fingers crossed I've inspired at least one from the messages to
followed by many zeros. So Jay, tell me about, how do you go from, you've got this nice bass voice with good body, and then within a split second, you go into that falsetto. How do you glide from the lows to the highs so gracefully?
Thank you so much. What a sweet question. I would say a huge inspiration for me musically is growing up singing Carnatic music. So my mom is a Carnatic musician. My whole family on my mom's side, they're musical geniuses. And I grew up going to their concerts and being inspired by, I think, the improvisation and the modulation and the range that is required to sing Carnatic music. And from a young age, I think that influence encouraged me to expand my range and to not be scared of my range. Okay, my belt only goes to, let's say, an A or a B on the Western scale. That's kind of low. But if I have a low belt, why not develop some of the higher range? And so I think it was just practice and being exposed to different kinds of music other than Western music that showed me that the music isn't prescriptive. You can develop it and create whatever you want based on the vision that you hear in your head. And I think not having that Western centric approach to music is actually something I think is one of my greatest strengths in Western music now. And I still like to bring in some of those influences whenever I can. But thank you so much for the compliment.
I could tell, having struggled to hit high notes, I mean, how effortlessly you glide from the lows to the highs was which brings us to Rohith. You were born in San Jose, and I could not believe that you sang one of the tough Tamil songs, Unnai Kaanada Naalondru Naalillaye, which is tough even for Tamil people. And the prelude to that song, with all the words that only will go with a song that are never spoken. What was it like, and how tough was it to crack that song? Because I was super impressed. And that song, I believe, is part of the album that was nominated for the Grammy. So maybe zoom in first, because what really struck me about you was that amazing, really, really tough song sung by a musical genius, Shankar Mahadevan. And you managed to do that cover so beautifully. What was it like? How difficult was it? And then we can zoom out to the broader album and how that was conceived with Annette.
Yeah, thank you. These are like the kindest questions. And I'm, again, so grateful to be here. So it's a funny story with that song. It was the first, it was one of the first songs we did when I had moved back to work at Berklee after graduating. So this was about 7 years ago. And I remember getting an email from Annette, who founded the ensemble, saying, hey, we're looking at this piece, and I know you haven't moved to Boston yet, but there's a lot of Tamil stuff going on in this song. Can you figure out what it is? And, you know, the song hadn't been out for very long, and there wasn't a lot of, you know, the lyric pages online tend to be less than accurate. So I called on a family friend who's like a Tamil poet, and he went through and he got all the lyrics for me, and we did the song, and it's just such a joy to play, I think, as a group. I think playing live music is like one of the most amazing things, and to be able to play with other musicians and someone drops something, or, you know, there's just energy in live music. And I think playing that song live just amplifies the experience of singing, of playing percussion, of anything. And I've done a variety of things on this song in the past. And for anybody that has listened to my music before, can probably tell, I'm a big fan of Shankar sir and his whole career. And so I always, I think, gravitate towards most songs that he sings. And this was one of those compositions that I think when it came out, the whole world kind of just was like, this is a classic. It's been out for 2 minutes, but it's already a classic. And with the ensemble, we just, you know, we write original music, we work with other indie artists, and then there's some songs, some of these popular songs that just hit home for us, and this was one of them, and we haven't stopped playing it in the last 6 or 7 years. And when we were on tour in 2018, we stopped by the power station, which is now the power station of Berklee NYC. And yeah, we were playing the song in our set, and we just recorded it. And just like, I think like every other video we've done, we just said, well, great, we have a music video, let's put it out there. And a few people listened to it, which was pretty exciting. And then, yeah, you know, as you're putting the album together, I don't think we could have envisioned the album without this song. And we're so grateful to Sony Music India for distributing the album. And, you know, the original song is also, you know, from Sony Music India. So it was a sort of match made in label for us to put this song on the album. Yeah, we're going on the road again, and we're definitely going to be playing it some more. I was singing it yesterday for no reason, just at home. It's just one of those songs.
Can you hum a sentence
stick with us.
if it's okay?
Yedir paramale avan, yedir paramale avan. Oh, pillirindu vandu ennai pambaramai churati vittu ulagunda peruvayan ildan vayodu vai parithan unnai kaanadu naan indru naan illaye vidayillamal verillaye.
Wow, amazing. I love how you stuck to the core integrity of the composition while having your own flourishes. And your breath control was absolutely seamless. How difficult was it to sing this? The Tamil words in this song are extremely difficult. What was your experience like growing up, being born and raised in the Bay Area, not having the Tamil chatter all around you all the time. How difficult was it to learn how to pronounce?
Yeah. I always joke, I think a lot of people joke, the Bay Area is kind of like little India in a lot of ways. And, you know, I was lucky to grow up in a house very similar to Jay, where my family was steeped in music. My mom is a Carnatic singer as well. And my dad comes from a music family. He'll never say that he's a musician, but, you know, he played percussion growing up. He has a beautiful singing voice and he sings very well. Again, those are things that only will be admitted in our house. But I was always around music, and both my parents are Tamil speakers, of course. And so I was just encouraged to speak Tamil at home. I, you know, learned to read and write very slowly, but, you know, just as a general skill to have. And, you know, I think, I'm sure other folks will be able to attest to this, but like, you know, when you call India to speak to your grandparents or family, a lot of them only speak Tamil, and it's like, you know, if you got to find a way to communicate with your family and stay in touch. And you know, calls were expensive, and flights, you know, where you would take one flight summer vacation, and so you really tried to make the most of those opportunities. And then of course learning Carnatic music growing up. My mom comes from a lineage in Carnatic music that she's a student of, among other musicians, D.K. Jayaram, who used to place a lot of importance on the words. And so she would carry that through with her students when she taught. And so, you know, she would explain, even when we were young, like 10, 11, 12, she would explain, these are the words and this is what they mean. And then keep an eye out on other songs, you might find this word. And, you know, you can start to then parse, you know, as you're learning, even when you're a kid. And so that was always just part of my life. And my mom speaks a lot of languages. She grew up in Jamshedpur and then went to school around India. She's kind of pan-Indian. And so when she speaks with her siblings on the phone, she'll like start a sentence in Hindi, then the middle will be in English, and then the end will be in Tamil in like one sentence. So I think it's like the sound of the languages were always around in my house. So I may not know what the word means, especially with Hindi. Like I don't speak Hindi, but I know what the sounds sound like. So I can kind of recreate them. And it's kind of fun. I just do things phonetically, and Tamil, of course, is a little bit easier, but you know, in songs like this, some of the Tamil goes over my head. Conversational Tamil is great. And it's a lot of just sitting with my dad, sitting with my mom, sitting with my partner, who's a Hindi speaker, and you know, working all these things out. And then trying to dig into the meaning. And I think that helps bring a lot more into into sort of how you feel the song.
Emotional content, right? The power you deliver to.
It's like context.
Yeah.
I think for Carnatic musicians, I was one of these kids growing up. I could not care less about what the lyrics meant. You know, you're learning some kriti, and I didn't want to know. My mom would make an effort to teach, and I was one of those kids, and I just want to learn the song. And so I think I always found emotional value in just the melody. And then I think when I got older and I started to, you know, work with songwriters, or I started to, you know, write my own songs in my own way, then I started to really appreciate it. And you look at different composers who are, you know, then there's wordplay, and you start to realize that there's all of these things that artists are doing. I think late in life, I grew to really appreciate lyrics. And then of course, all these film songs have such beautiful lyrics as well.
So I have two quick questions, and before we do the cycle round, go back to Falu. Are you musical soul brothers with Sid Sriram? Because you guys have very similar, you know, you're born in the Bay Area to Tamil parents who are classical musicians, and you have this amazing range. You both went to Berklee College of Music. Do you know Sid Sriram? Are you friends with him? What do you?
Yeah, I've known.
You guys hang out.
For me, it's so funny. It took me a long time to get used to the Sid thing because I grew up knowing him as Siddharth. So yeah, I've known him since I was a kid. You know, his mom is a Carnatic music teacher also in the Bay Area. So is my mom. And, you know, we would go to all the same Arangetrams and Golus and all of the things. And so funny story, I actually went to Berklee because of him. So I ran into him at some Arangetram, probably as you do. And he was home from Berklee for something. And he's 4 years older than me. So he was a senior at Berklee, or in his last year at Berklee, and I was a senior in high school, or about to be a senior in high school. And he was like, "Oh, so you know, what are you going to do In college, the standard question you ask every 17-year-old. And I said, oh, well, I'm, thinking of, going to med school and doing all the, right things. And he said, have you thought about music? And I was like, yeah, like all the time. I don't know. Please rephrase the question. And he said, no, like as a career. And I was like, I until that moment had not occurred to me at all, which is so funny because my mom is a professional musician. So it's a little embarrassing actually. And he said, no, there's this great place, Berklee College of Music. I go there, you should check it out. Just go home and, look up Berklee and see what you think. And so I looked it up and it was, I clicked on the majors and it was like every major was related to music. And I was like, this seems like a great place. And so I did like a week, like a program there for a week. It was like 2-3-day programs. He showed me around. He took me to this Thai restaurant that then became like my haunt all throughout college. And yeah, no, I was sold on Berklee the moment I stepped on campus. And yeah, so we're still in touch. He works, occasionally he'll do stuff with us at Berklee India Exchange. And yeah, no, Berkeley's a great place, and there's tons of South Asians now at Berklee. When I was there, I think there were probably like 20 of us, and that was a lot for Annette. And then now I'm sure they're in the triple digits now. So it's pretty.
Tell us about the work Annette's
exciting.
doing with this ensemble, and congratulations on being nominated with that album. I'm going to mispronounce the name, Shurat or
Shuruat. It's so funny. We
Shuruat.
just did like we were talking about doing like a pronunciation guide for it. But yeah, Shuruat, yeah, which means like beginning in Hindi. And there's a funny story about that. It was the first ever student original composition that was ever brought to the ensemble when it was still a class. And it was the first student original that was played in an ensemble concert. It was called Shuruat. And it was like a sort of classical crossover kind of piece. It was a quartet. It was Sashank Navladi, who was a sarod player. Also, his original composition featured on Shuruat, the album, and a couple other musicians. And so everything sort of ties together with the ensemble. We love all these, story threads that all come back around. But yeah, Annette founded the ensemble. Actually, yeah, 11 years ago, I guess 12 now in 2023. So around the same time as Indiaspora. And she basically, was given a blank slate by the college. They asked her, if you could do anything, what would you do? And she said, well, we need a performing ensemble that plays South Asian music in some form. And there wasn't anything like that at the college. And so she just did it, which is kind of Annette's MO. She just thinks of something and she just makes it happen. Her big motto is, what if, why not? And so always just make things happen. And so that was 11 years ago. The first recital was in a classroom. There was no band. People asked their friends to play keys or percussion or guitar or bass or whatever. I joined a year later in 2012, with much difficulty. I tried to join when I first got to campus and they told me, you already have a background in Indian music, so I don't think you need to do this. You should do something else. So I was put in concert choir, which is great. And then I weaseled my way into the ensemble. And I basically haven't missed a rehearsal since. So it's been 10 or 11 years of, incremental steps up. I remember we doing our first recital in one of Berklee's small recital rooms, our first performance in the big Berklee Performance Center, our first doctorate presentation for Rangan sir, and then, sort of seeing this program, Berklee India Exchange, grow around it, where we're now able to do these artist residencies regularly, having Shankar sir come, Shreya Ghoshal, Zakir ji, and all these incredible musicians, and then getting to write original songs and release all this music. And that's just what the ensemble is doing. So it's just, it's a joy to be able to wake up in the morning and sit at your computer and think, oh, I have to go to work. But wait, my work is related to music. So at least I have, there's this one saving grace where I get to look at a chart, or every email I send is about a show or about an arrangement or about something. And so that gives you, it's like a little extra hug
That's
which I
great.
think, some of my friends tell me they don't get when they log into Outlook.
Exactly. So, Amita, is it okay to still go around, or should we pause to take questions? I can keep going. I can do
I
another
know,
loop.
right? They have amazing stories, and I know we can keep talking to them. Maybe we just give people a quick chance if they have any questions. If there aren't any immediately apparent, then Kash, maybe you can go forward. So if anyone has any questions, you can raise your Zoom hand or type it in the box, and we'd be happy to ask our super talented guests here their thoughts on it.
Right hand, left hand, Zoom hand.
I'll raise my real hand with a question. So before we collect questions, Falu, what is ahead for you? So you grew up learning classical music. You didn't think maybe that you'd be a Grammy Award-winning children's album composer. Unpredictable, right? So what are the things that you want to do that are different than what you've done in the past, if that is even something that you're remotely considering?
Yeah, I think music is a soul food. It's a food for one's soul. And my husband runs a rare disease company called Rocket Pharma, which is publicly traded. And he manufactures drugs for little kids who have rare diseases, and their lifespan is only 2 years. So for me, I think music is a powerhouse. It's not just an entertainment tool. It can be used in so many different ways. And one thing that really triggers my interest is healing through music. And I feel like if we can use the superpower that is a gift to all of us, J.Maya, Rohith, all of these talented people here, as well as all of you guys who enjoy music, I think I wanted to kind of do a little bit of more research into how we can make music more accessible, more available for patients. Because between me and my husband, that's the demographic that we come across is little children. And you can see I write children's songs because I am myself a mother. And when you're a mom, you see the world differently than when I was a single woman or when I was just married. Now I have a responsibility for the next generation, and your ideas and your thoughts and your action become a little more, thoughtful of, am I making a difference in the next generation's life through my music? And that's where I'm leaning towards, how can we use music more than just an entertainment tool?
Well, the questions have started to come in, and I think it's your chance now, our chance, our luck to hear you, each of you. I think Rohith, you already sang one song, but pick your favorite composition and belt out maybe a few lines. We'll start with you, Falu, and go to you, Jay, next.
Oh, wow. I'm actually in a place where there's music already. So, okay, I will sing a couple of lines, but you might hear some other harmonies around me. Please excuse that. I'll sing a folk song from India, from Rajasthan, who my teacher, Ustad Sultan Khan, he gave me this song. And I'll sing you a couple of lines of this song.
Beautiful, beautiful,
Oh.
absolutely beautiful. Yeah.
Yes.
And we'll go to you, Jay. Your favorite composition of yours or anybody else's cover or your original. Sing us a few lines if you don't mind.
This is such a wholesome question. Thank you for whoever asked it.
Oh, it's not mine. It came from the chat.
Thank you, thank you. I think I will pick a song. This song, I grew up listening to it a lot. It's an American pop song. It's called "I'm Yours" by Jason Mraz. I'm sure many of you know it. And funnily enough, the reason it came to mind is just the other day, Jason Mraz messaged me and said that he listens to my music, which was such a full circle moment for me because I grew up listening to him so much. So yeah, that's why that came to mind because I was just listening to it the other day. Well, you done me and you bet I felt it. I tried to reach you, but you're so cool that I melted. I fell right through the cracks. And now I'm trying to get back before the cool down run out. I'll be giving it my bestest. Nothing's gonna stop me but divine intervention. Wrecking it to get my turn to win some more. Learn some, but I won't hesitate no more, no more. It cannot wait. I'm yours. Yay!
Beautiful, beautiful.
So long since
Who is your singing idol, or who was your singing idol growing up?
Well, obligatory my family aside, because there are a lot of idols in my family. I would say vocally, I grew up, so I had a bit of an eclectic kind of foray into Western music. I did choir, I played violin in the Peninsula Youth Orchestra, and actually I sung a lot of jazz growing up. I think anyone who knows Indian classical music would know that there's so much similarity, I think, between Indian classical music and American jazz. And I grew up just listening to the great American jazz singers, Ella Fitzgerald, Chet Baker, and I really fell in love with the Sarah Vaughan and the improvisation, the way that they're using their voice not only to sing, but as almost an instrument, as a tool to achieve a musical vision. And that's something I think I'm really inspired by in all different kinds of music, but especially jazz and in, for example, like opera and choir and Indian classical music. So it's something I really try to incorporate as much as I can into my music. And going to the question you asked before, actually, about range, I think that's it's another inspiration, is how these singers are able to use their voice and every part of their voice to tell a story.
Got it. The one thing I envy about you guys, especially Rohith and Jay, that were born and raised here, this is the heart of Sanjeev's question here. So the intonations and inflections, the style is very different in Indian music versus Western. How do you bridge these two worlds, or even attempt to bridge these worlds, or how do you maintain split personalities when you take on these two different genres?
I can hop in because I actually think someone asked a question exactly to this effect. Sanjeev, I think, asked.
That's it. It's Sanjeev's question. Yeah.
Oh, amazing!
I twisted it.
Oh, you're already so on top of things. I love to hear it. I think it's a very interesting question, because the two genres are, I think, growing up singing Indian classical music and singing American pop, there are a lot of similarities, surprising amount of similarities, but there's also a lot of difference. And I think for me, I think about music as a story that you're telling. And just like authors use different tools to tell different kinds of stories, right? The prose in a horror novel is going to be different than the prose in a romance novel, but both novels are still brilliant. They're just different in the way that the story is being told. I think I'm very grateful that I'm able to compartmentalize, okay, these are the tools that I use when I'm singing Western music, flipping a lot into a higher register, doing more improvisation that follows the normal kind of Western scale, as opposed to potentially some modulations that are more common in Asian and specifically South Asian music. Being able to almost speak two different languages and instinctively flip into these two worlds. And part of that was, I'm very grateful. I grew up singing all kinds of music, so Indian music, jazz, choir, just being able to switch in the moment from a young age to a genre and fully embody that genre to tell the story in the best way I can using those tools, I think was really helpful to me. So it's almost like when I sing different kinds of music now, it's like almost like, okay, this is French, this is English. I'm just stepping into a completely different lexicon and vernacular using different tools.
What was it like for you, Rohith? How do you switch modalities, and who is your singing idol, or who was your singing idol when you were growing up?
Yeah, well, I grew up, my mom's student. So, like Jay said,
Besides mom,
family, shout out.
Outside the firewall.
But, I think when I was younger, I think my biggest vocal inspiration, just in terms of like my Carnatic learning, was T.M. Krishna. He was, becoming sort of really big in the Carnatic world when I was young and started listening to music, and I got my first portable CD player and all of that stuff. And so I would always listen to his music. Mm-hmm. And then, there's all the film music that my parents, especially my dad, exposed me to. So, SPB, even MSV and his phrasing and all of these things. And then, of course, Hariharan, Shankar Sir, all of these great legends of film music. I'm an especially big fan of Chitra ma'am and Shreya Ghoshal, of course, who in my mind is probably the greatest female vocalist in Bollywood, as far as I'm concerned. Hot take, but on that end. But when I went to Berklee and I started getting exposed to all these other kinds of music, I really started to get into gospel when I was a senior in high school, and then when I went to Berklee. And I'm a big fan of the Clark sisters, especially Karen Clark Sheard, Mahalia Jackson, of course, and Kim Burrell, and all of these people. And I think I just, similar to Jay, you just listen to so much different music, and the music that's playing on the radio, the music that's playing in grocery stores, when you're growing up is different than what you would listen to here. I mean, I'm in Chennai now, and it would be very different, obviously. So you just end up with more stuff in your little iTunes library. And so shuffle, throwing your iPod on shuffle is like a very disorienting experience, because it'll be like K.V. Narayanaswamy, and then it'll be Jason Mraz after that, and that's just kind of what it's like. And so I think you just end up with like a very wide view of what music is. And then I think that always, whether consciously or not, finds its way into your music somehow. I spend most of my time now outside the ensemble working with musicians from other backgrounds. So I have a duo with Iraqi Jordanian violinist. I have a guitar player who we're bartering. I'm teaching him Carnatic stuff. He's teaching me like modal jazz and making me transcribe Miles solos and things like that. So, it's a lot of respect, I think, for other traditions, which is really important. I remember being told this a lot by people, and very, not in a malicious way growing up, but that if you can sing Carnatic music, you can sing anything. And that's what I was always told when I was growing up. And I feel like especially
if you can sing Ilayaraja's songs, you can sing anything.
Yeah. And it's such a great way to think about it, because, all music is, every style of music is just providing you with some sort of toolbox.
Very profound. I think you made a great observation. Yeah.
I think the one thing that I ended up sort of maybe taking the wrong way about that was, and a lot of my friends had this too, which is like, you end up with this sort of Carnatic music supremacy in your head, because this is sort of reinforced. You go to every competition or you go to everything, and they're saying, you can sing this, you can sing anything. And then you go to school and someone's singing a run, and then it's like, well, okay, you can also do this because that's part and parcel of the training. And I used to find this a lot with like quote unquote fusion music, which was that, to me, it always felt like the Indian musician was walking into the rehearsal like an hour and a half late, and the band has been rehearsing and they've put together this arrangement, and then I come in and I'll be like, okay, what's the ragam of this song? Cool, alap over this, you know, and like that's what it felt like to me. And then I would hear bands like Shakti, where you would see like there was respect and eagerness to learn from each other on both sides. You know, you would see Janji really making an effort to learn. He'd studied Veena and how to adapt that to his instrument. Zakirji, of course, who's like a chameleon on the tabla, and El Shankar, who made an effort to learn and write melodies and really try to step out of his comfort zone. And I think hearing music like that really challenged me to be like, okay, when I walk into a room, I have all my stuff, and I'm just gonna, for the first little bit of rehearsal, just leave it outside, and then just come in like a baby with no context and just try to figure out what's going on. And then you find all these little gems that are, oh, I have this, I'll bring that in. And, you know, you find all these little things. And I think it also helps you connect more with people. I always do this with my friends. We just go in and we just play. And then we'll start practicing the songs. Yeah. But it's like, you know, eating together, playing music together. These are things that really just connect. Yeah. Then you can kind of just do anything.
Great. Falu, I want to, so one of the questions here that has come up is the most difficult song that you have written. And also quickly, I want you to touch upon when things get difficult, apart from music, what do you do in order to keep things going?
So you said, what is the most difficult song I've written?
Yeah.
Is that the question?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I haven't yet.
Okay, that's a good answer. Yeah.
I'm still looking for a difficult song to write. It's not done yet. And what was the second question?
When things get difficult, what do you go to in order to keep it? Apart from music, what do you do to relax?
I spend time with children.
It's good. Okay. How about you, Jay and Rohith? What are your answers? The most difficult work you've done, and when things get tough, how do you get going?
Oh my gosh, I would say the most difficult song I've written. It was difficult because of the emotional component to it. So I wrote a song on my last EP, it was my debut EP, but it was, I guess, also my most recent EP, called Poetic License. And the song is called Prophecies. And I wrote it about my parents, and specifically the experience of being a second generation immigrant and having dreams that you've inherited from your parents who came to this country, wanting to give their children a better life, and reconciling those dreams with the dreams that you have also for your life, and how to kind of combine and find a balance between those two things. And obviously it's a very emotional song, and it delves into some really heartfelt topics, but I really truly think that those songs are the most fulfilling to share it to the world, because they're honest. They say something, and I'm really grateful that song it reached a part of social media I would have never guessed, and I'm really grateful it did, because it introduced me to so many different people who resonated with it in their own unique ways. And I know people would send me videos of them playing that song for their parents, and the waterworks were everywhere when they sent those videos. But it's just, you know, sometimes the most difficult songs are the ones that need to exist. And then to the flip side of that question, I would say when things get difficult, something I really, really like to do is listen to the music that inspired me when I was younger to be an artist, and the artists that made the world feel smaller, the artists that made me feel connected to them. Because in my head, I'm like, okay, well, if this song makes me feel less alone, maybe one day I can write something that makes someone else feel less alone. And then the difficulty and the hardship that comes with being an artist, and especially an independent artist in today's day and age. And, you know, it comes with its trials and tribulations. But, you know, I think at the heart of every artist's journey is a desire to connect with people through music. And if you can remind yourself why you came into it in the first place, it makes it all a little bit easier.
Got it. So we're coming up towards the end of the hour, but I do want to hear Rohith's answers to these questions. But before we wrap up, there is a really good question from Sonali here. Which is, I think, relevant. What do you wish a music industry professional did better, specifically when it comes to supporting the Indian diaspora? But before we get to your takes on it, Rohith, your two answers to the toughest thing you've worked on, and what do you do to relax outside of music?
I think Shobha already mentioned it. The toughest song that I had to write is off my latest album, Manam, which is actually a duo project with my mom. It's called Viridale. There's actually two versions of it, but it's the second version, which is called Viridale Freedom. And it's yeah, it was a tough song sort of from start to finish. The whole album was tough. It was sort of triggered by George Floyd's killing, and sort of how my mom and I both dealt with that individually, and then how we dealt with it as a family, and then parallel things happening in India with police brutality. And it was us just having conversations at home as a family, which is what we do anyway. And yeah, from the writing of the lyrics was the hardest part for me, because I had never written lyrics before that. I mostly wrote sort of melodies, but I didn't write lyrics. And because I didn't write in English, but English is my most comfortable language. So I sat with my mom and I wrote the whole song in English, like what I wanted the lines to say. And then we sat together, and then we would go through line by line, and first she tried to translate it exactly, and that wasn't working. That's not how language works. And so we would just iterate, and she would be like, how's this? Does this capture what you're trying to capture? What if we said this instead? And then it was like writing the song twice, which is really good, because we ended up filtering out a lot of things. And I tend to get very up in arms about social things very quickly. I have a very short fuse with these topics. And so my dad was like a calming presence. He was like, why don't you just tone it down a little bit? What if we said it in this way? And it was really a collaborative process with my whole family. And it took probably 4 or 5 months to write the whole song, and then the melody, and then arrange everything. There were a good amount of musicians on that song. And so, yeah, it was really, really tough. I remember recording it and having to take breaks, because I was starting to cry while recording the song. I told my parents, you have to leave the house. I was stuck in the house, pandemic. And I said, just go somewhere for 2 hours. Leave me alone. And there's one verse about caste that is particularly close to my heart. And so I took a good 30-minute break after recording that. I had to watch some Seinfeld and really just unwind.
Seinfeld is the answer. Okay.
Which is kind of to the next question, which is to unwind. I like to cooking is a big stress reliever for me. I love to cook. So you'll find a lot of cut vegetables in my fridge if I'm having a stressful day or week. But I think the thing I do the most, actually did a lot while Manam was happening, is I look at other non-musical art, because I feel like I'm very easily influenced. So if I listen to music, that music will find its way into my music, or I'll quote it, or something will happen. So I'll watch stand-up, or I'll watch film. I love watching films, or I'll just Google paintings or whatever. I'll try to engage with art that isn't music, and I find that always inspires ideas, which I feel safer working on, because I'm always wary of oh, this line is from someone else's song. So that's what I tend to do, and that's what I did in that moment. Yeah. Couple episodes of
so I think we ran out of time to hit the last couple of questions, but at this point I'm going to turn it over to Sanjeev and Emma for their closing thoughts. But listen, this was an incredible treat. You guys are such advanced musical souls and with amazing talent, and I am so excited about your future, and I'm going to be following your work very closely on the media that you publish your work. I'm a huge fan of both you guys, and Falu, of course, who I think had to disconnect.
Yeah, I think Falu.
Back to you, Sanjeev and MR. Thank you so much, you guys, Rohith and Jay, for joining us, and Falu as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kash. And my God, this was such a treat of a session. I don't think MR is going to be able to come on video, but I'll just kind of close out. I know that we all had an internal chat room at Indiaspora going on the side, and one of my colleagues commented that it looks like we are going over time. That's great. I want to go over time. I don't want this to end. And that's exactly how all of us feel here at Indiaspora, just looking at the comments coming in. this was a fantastic session. I mean, not only was it so enjoyable, so much fun, so inspirational from all of you, Rohith, J.Maya, Falu, and Kash. I'll come to you in a second as well. But the topics that it delved into that were adjacent to music was also very illuminating, I thought. And it kind of, the conversation, how it meandered and sort of, ebbed and flowed into various different adjacent topics was fascinating to me. And Kash, you are so passionate about singing yourself. You regaled an Indiaspora audience many a time, and your passion shone through in this particular moderation. So thank you so much for doing this. And what a great session. Hope we can do something more like this some other time in the future. And here's to more Grammys for all of you. Have a good night.
Cheers, guys. Take care. Thanks so much, everybody. Take care. Have a
Thank
lovely
you.
evening. Bye.
Bye.